Hey everyone, welcome to today's show at Beth Bell Live. If you're feeling like things are stuck, you're just on this awakening journey, wondering why is everything feeling like it's coming apart as opposed to coming together, this show will be for you because we're going to talk about some of the raw, real deals that happen on our awakening spiritual journey. So I think before we do, I've got so much I want to share with you. There's a few things personal I want to share, and then we'll dive into the questions. But before we do, let's just take a deep breath in together and just ground ourselves. I sometimes don't stop and pause enough to take that deep breath in. And when I do, and I anchor it in deep in my belly, I just realize like, oh man, that is such a juicy thing that we can do in a moment's notice that just brings us right back to center, right back to, being in our bodies and being who we really are. And so everything we talk about on the show has to do with embodiment of all of these spiritual concepts and expanded states of consciousness that we want to exude and be on a daily basis, not just talk about, not just say sounds good, but actually live in the light, be the light, and shine the light for ourselves and for others. So I'm super excited to have you here. If you're on with me live, welcome. I love having you. Yay. And if you're watching on replay, if you have any questions as we go along, please put them in the comments as well. So if you're live or on replay, either way, you can put them in the comments and I'll be sure to answer them on this week's show or next. And if you want a little bit more privacy, you can always go to bethbell.me/question. Enter your question there and I'll be sure to address it. Or you can, if you want even more privacy and you want to have more of a dialogue, you can schedule a session with me. I've got anything from a 30-minute for a quick question to 60 minutes or to a full monthly VIP program. So lots of options for us to work together. Now, I want to jump into just a couple of things. Yesterday, I had an incredible family constellation. It just so happens that it ended up being for me. It wasn't planned that way. I had a whole group here with an incredible facilitator. If you want to know more, please put in the comments and I'll be sure to share with you because you can also do family constellation online. We did it here with human bodies in the room. And what came through was so profound and unseen. And that's why we do this family constellation, because there's stuff like in the background. And man, there was this incredible, deep heartbreak on my maternal ancestral side. And at the end of the day, as I reflected on it, I'm like, wow, this really took us back to the core of separation. We often think about heartbreak as a relationship, especially those romantic ones where we can just feel our heart breaking. We can feel the stuff that we try to avoid all our lives in our chest and our belly and in our minds, that things go crazy and wild and we feel off center. And yet there's also just that core separation wound that happens when we realize that we think that we're separate from source. And so everything we do on the show is about taking us back through that awakening to remember who we really are. And that happens through relationships, right? So all of our relationships, to love and to life, to work, to family, to lovers, to friends, it all has an impact on how we show up in our life. And they're all bringing us really incredible lessons for us to learn so that we can expand through. And one of the questions that comes to throw out to everyone is, what if no one or no thing could actually break your heart? What if you sat in the wholeness of who you really are and you just allowed yourself to feel the feelings of being in love, being out of love, feeling hurt, feeling blissed out? What if we just allowed ourselves to just feel the feels and didn't attach ourselves to the fear of what heartbreak can bring? It doesn't have to be fast. I always like to do things quickly. I always like to transcend through, especially heartbreak, get the lessons and move forward. And sometimes the calling is to sit with it a little bit longer, a little bit deeper, and to get to that deeper core. So if a lover has recently broken your heart, put it in the comments if you feel like it, a little broken heart. There's something so juicy in that. There's something so raw in that, and something so deeply spiritual in that for you. And if we don't get the lesson, we're just going to get another heartbreak. And it doesn't mean that we're discounting or we're spiritually bypassing, what heartbreak is. It means that no, we're actually feeling it deeply within our bodies, and that we're allowing ourselves to transmute it, but at the pace that our bodies need to transmute it. Because there is attachment, there is like healthy attachment oftentimes that happens. Excuse me. Oftentimes it happens that we have to really just allow ourselves to feel and move through. So if you've ever been heartbroken, put a little broken heart in the comments. And if you've ever come back to a state of wholeness after heartbreak, put a little, let's say a little purple heart in there. And yeah, I would love to hear from you. Okay, one other quick fun thing I'm going to share, and then we're going to dive into the questions is, excuse me, my nose is running. I think it's the hot matcha tea that I'm drinking in my Buddha head cup here, my mug. And you can see I've obviously kissed Buddha's forehead now several times with my lipstick, and I love matcha tea. So that might be causing my little nose to have a reaction, but something fun. And then we're going to jump in. Many of you know that I'm a best-selling author for the book Angels, Herpes, and Psychedelics. And without going too deeply into the details, it was a big, I don't want to say fight, but a discussion with my publisher about the title. And yeah, I mean, it's obviously intriguing, but there's parts of it that could be scary for people. And I even created a book cover slip for it in the beginning, and then realized, no, I'm getting way too kitschy here, and people just really need to feel into whatever the reaction is to the book. So I happened to order a used copy, and this is the part that I'll do on another video, but a used copy of the book, because it was like $4. I thought, how can you sell my book for $4, right? And it said it was barely used. And in the past, I've had books that I've launched that end up with publishers that I don't get any royalty to, and they're brand new. So anyway, that's not the point here. The point is that I get this book, and here's what it looks like. It looks like this. It is heavily used, which I love. I love to see that someone really dove into this book, and I feel like energetically they carried this book around the world somehow. So if this is one of my friends, which is very possible that it's one of my friends, I would love to know if this is your book that came back to me. But I'm pointing it out because you can see that herpes has been covered up. And I just find that so intriguing and fascinating. And it was one of my worries all along when I actually published the book. And I got through that worry, and for really good reason, viruses of the mind and lots of stuff. So I'm going to talk about this on another video, but I just felt like I wanted to put it out there and see if anyone that's a viewer of my show, or maybe a dear friend of mine, if it's your book and how you're feeling about herpes and why you felt like you had to cover it up. And yeah, I would love to have more of a discussion on that, but that's for another show. So let's jump in. Yes. Wow. I know. Okay. So today we're going to talk about those real raw sides of our spiritual growth and our spiritual life. And I think ultimately it's so important to just know that we're not alone on this journey. There is so much happening for all of us in the cosmos, in the third dimension of this earth plane reality. And so we're here to help bring through some insights and wisdom to overcome some of this. So we're going to jump right in. Question number 1. How do I trust my intuition when it goes against everything I was taught to believe? This is a great question, because most of what you were taught to believe is just a belief. And unfortunately, a lot of times those beliefs are limiting, meaning that they're not really for your highest, truest potential, but they were important for your soul's journey, because there was some aspect of yourself when you came into this life that said, hey, I want to learn this lesson. So you picked the parents and you found the people that were going to anchor in this belief about how you're supposed to be, do, act, all of those things. And then you played it out. And then one day you said, maybe it's not really this way. And your intuition was telling you something else. I like to call it soul speak. It's like we can talk about intuition in so many different ways, but it's really your soul, your higher self, your connection to source that's giving you input into your everyday life. And most of the times, the reason why we may feel like we're not hearing it is because we're just not quieting our minds enough to actually hear what our soul is saying or speaking to us. So, yes, I think it's great if you're feeling this, because it just means that those beliefs are coming up for you to really dive into and say, hey, is that belief, number one, is it true? Oftentimes it's not. Or it's based on a story. So it may have truth to it, but it's not true right here, right now. And that's so important, isn't it? That we get stuck in our stories, because we also anchor in the emotions that are really in our cells that happened when those stories happened. So we want to get in there and we want to figure out, like, what belief is really serving us, and what belief is limiting. And so it's great that you're feeling this rub between your intuition and your beliefs, because it's saying, yeah, the time is now to really find out what I'm letting go of and what I'm wanting to move more into. What are the beliefs that are actually helping to catapult me? And is it true, especially those limiting beliefs? So I'd love any comments. I thank you so much. I see all you lovely people here online. It's so wonderful to have you. Let's jump into the next question. Why does it feel like I'm losing my identity the deeper I go into awakening? And this is also a great thing, isn't it? Because when we start to feel like we're losing who we are, we're questioning who we are, we're not sure, we feel actually unstable, which seems kind of odd, doesn't it? As you're awakening and you feel like, wow, I should be more stable. I should be more certain. I should be more confident. And I think as the foundation of, as we talked about in the last question, our beliefs start to unravel and to just disintegrate, then we start to go, wait a second, who am I? Not that we don't know, like, I know I'm Beth Bell, but there's aspects of myself that start to fall away. And I think one of the things that is so prominent right now for all of us on this awakening journey is that we are stepping into a place of power, an innate power, a power that has always been within us, but we haven't activated it. Why? Because we're scared. We're actually scared to really activate this power within us to really shine our light brightly. And there's so many angles I could go to on this, but I want to get back to the question, which is, why does it feel like I'm losing my identity the deeper I go into awakening? Because you are letting those beliefs about yourself fall away. And you are also believing, or, I don't even like the word believing. You're falling into receiving a sense of knowingness that not everyone else knows. So when you have the knowingness that not everyone else knows, you start to feel a little bit like an outlier. You're like, well, wait a second. Like, I feel innately like I know this, like I feel this, but then we go out into our external environments, or maybe right here in the four walls that we live in, and someone reflects something back to us that's just like, makes us think we're crazy, makes us think we don't know who we are, makes us fearful of the big steps and the leaps that we've taken, fearful of really stepping into the unknown, which is actually something that you know deeply innately within you. So keep going on this identity thing. And a lot of people, no, not a lot of people. I've heard of many people who will change their name. And I think that they do that in an effort to recognize perhaps a new identity, or perhaps to release an old identity. I'm not saying you need to change your name. I don't change my name. I don't think we have to change our names. I'm just honoring that when people do change their names, that I think it is taking on a new, really stepping into a new energetic blueprint for their life and for who they are. And sometimes that impacts what we wear and how we move and how our bodies are able to flow with whatever is happening in our lives. So it's a great thing if you feel like you're losing your identity, but we don't want you to go crazy in the process. So grounding techniques are really, really important. One of my favorites, easiest, doesn't take long, is sitting, closing your eyes, taking a moment. I love to light a candle. It just helps to anchor in the light, and just taking, pretend you're whatever you want to be, but monkey, a mouse, or whatever, something that has a tail, and just anchor it all the way down to the core of the earth. Just anchor it, wrap it around, and just feel really, really anchored into your sit bones. And at the same time, or in the next move, then just really go to the top of your head and open that crown chakra, go right to source and start to feel the connection to light and to love, and ask for it to be brought into you. If you're not already feeling it, open that channel. And then thirdly is to really create this bubble around. So just pretend like it's literally a bubble. I really like to have purple light inside the bubble. It just provides a transmission and a way to transmute things that are emanating from my own auric field, and then white, bright light on the outside. So that to the outside world, we're just a massive mirror of light for them. So there's nothing for them to come into, there's nothing for them to take from us. It's just a glow that they can experience in our presence, but not feel like they need to try to, manipulate it in any way or be scared of it, because sometimes people are scared of seeing our light. So hopefully that's helpful when you're feeling that shakiness of your identity and like, who am I? What am I doing? Just anchor into that and just ask for source, your higher self, to just show me, show me, show me, and be in that anchor of your own light and love that is deeply within yourself. Okay, let's go on to the next question. And if anyone else has any other techniques that they love, I would love to hear them in the chat as well. Okay, next question. What do I do when I feel spiritually disconnected, even though I'm doing all the right things? I think you could do exactly what we just talked about in the last question, which is to create that field and that anchoring in. But in addition to that, I think the way that this is worded, doing all the right things, get rid of the idea that there's anything right or wrong, and make a decision and follow that decision until you want to make another one. It's the biggest lesson I think we have in life is this. Yes, of course, we want to learn from our decisions. So I'm not saying that we don't reflect on decisions that we've made. What I'm suggesting is that we don't have the heaviness of saying that something is wrong. I made a wrong decision. I made a bad decision. Yeah. Okay. There's times where we could say that. Okay. This is, I don't like the gossipy kind of stuff, but this is what's coming through to share with you. And it's so relevant and time sensitive. So if you haven't seen it, I don't even watch the news. So for me to see this and know it, it's like, it's widespread. The couple that was having the affair at the Coldplay concert, they could really be looking at this going, wow, I made a really bad decision. And many of us could say, yeah, I'm thinking that too. Like the fact that those two were, at a concert together, both, well, I guess she was divorced, doesn't matter, but he's married. There was an affair happening, and that could be looked on as bad. And in many ways, we could say that it is. However, and I feel deeply for the family, and I feel deeply for all of the people involved. But my point is that they can make more decisions. They can make a decision. How am I going to handle that after that happened? How am I going to handle my spouse? How am I going to handle my children? How am I going to handle the publicity? What am I going to learn from it? So I bring it up because it's about the next decision. They can, and they might be spending days, weeks, months regretting. And I get that. I'm not saying that we don't go into that feeling, but it's let's get to the place of the now. What's happening right now? What can I do right now? Let's repair. Let's speak our truth. Let's use this opportunity to talk about, why did we get into the affair? Like, what happened there? Like, what happened in our own personal lives, in our own mind, in our own heart, that led us to make that decision? Let's not call it wrong. Let's just call it what it is, and then make another choice to move forward in a different way, because it's really an opportunity for the truth to come out. There's obviously something deep within them individually, and within the marriage, and within the relationship that they have to themselves and others, that is saying, we need to look at this. And it's, the fact that happened brings so much for everybody else. And I don't mean that in a gossipy way. I mean it in a way that it brings us an opportunity to reflect on our own lives. I think most women would go, oh my God, if that were my husband and I had children, like, I would be so devastated. And so feeling into those feels of how you would feel is one thing, I think, to activate some feelings within you. But it's even like, if we take it to another level, and we take it to a sense of truth, and we say, okay, if that were to happen to me, what would my truth be? What would I want to find out for myself? How would I handle that? How would I communicate with my husband? How would I feel if I knew my husband was cheating on me and I found out in such an incredibly like public way? And what would the lessons be that I would learn? Now, I'm not trying to put all of us through this torture. I'm just saying that it's, again, back to not about right or wrong, but about the decisions that we make. When life gives us shit, what do we do with it? Do we make mud pies or do we sit in it? And if we're sitting in it, how long are we going to sit in it? And are we going to let ourselves sink? So bad things happen. I'm not saying that they're not bad or that they don't feel bad. I'm saying that it's about what you do in your mind that allows you to either transcend from it and get the lesson, not spiritually disassociate and say, oh, it was just meant to be. No, I'm not saying that either. I'm saying that you really anchor into, why would I be calling this in for my growth? So we can still utilize a lesson that was tough for these two people and their families as something that we can integrate within ourselves, not just for gossip's sake, not just to talk about, oh my God, but to talk about, like, yeah, what's going on in my marriage? How could I not avoid that, but like, what's happening that I am doing or not doing that could create a situation where my spouse would want to go out and get something from someone else and not honor that sacred connection? So I think there's some juicy nuggets there. I know it feels like I went a little bit off about, feeling spiritually disconnected, but it was really about even though I'm doing all the right things. And that is my point of judging yourself from the mind. I'm a master at this. I love to judge myself from the mind. It's painful. And if I could just anchor in that one lesson and consistently in every moment of now, not judge myself, things would be easier. So I'm speaking my own truth and learning my own lessons and knowingness of what it is that we need to do, which is just back away from the self-judgment, back away from this vibrational aspect of ourselves about what's right and what's wrong. So that's why you're spiritually disconnected, is that you're in your mind. Because when we go into the heart, we connect. When we go into our sit bones and we ground, we connect. And that's the moment of now that people like Eckhart Tolle always talk about. It's that moment where you just go, everything is perfect right now. It's not about what just happened in the past or what might happen in the future. Yeah, they're all variables, but it's anchoring into the now and keeping that sense of peace and that connection to source within ourselves. And that's what's going to keep you connected. So if you're feeling that little disconnect, it's just a calling. It's just a calling to come back to anchoring it in, not trying to figure it out with your mind. All right, hopefully that's helpful. If there's additional comments or questions, I'd love to hear them in the chat. Okay, let's go on to the next question. Is it normal to feel more anxious during spiritual expansion? What's really happening? And excuse me, this it came up yesterday, I think, in our family constellation. There were several people that were feeling a lot of anxiety. 1 minute. And I think the anxiety comes from the not knowingness. And I would suggest that switching that to the curiosity is helpful. And the anxiety also often comes for people like us on the awakening journey, that there's so much more we want to do. There's so much more we want to be. We want to be in service. We want our gifts and our tools to be utilized, to be seen, to be heard, not for fame, not for fortune, but for influence and impact, that we really want to be able to share our love and light that we've worked so hard to cultivate ourselves back to. And so that alone can cause anxiety, just knowing that you have so much to offer and yet feeling like it's not quite there yet. I deal with this all the time. There's so much that we want to share. And I think it comes back to that sense of divine timing and lining up with it, and just knowing that there is still things that we are lining up within ourselves, nuances that we're adjusting. And I think also for me personally, when I did the family constellation yesterday, I was like, wow, I learned so much I don't mind to get into the details, but it's not the point right now in this question, that there's so much that came through that I had no idea from my maternal ancestral side that had nothing to do with me. other than I chose on a soul level to have this family lineage and to bring through and to take it from, my mom. It came down to my mom. It's something unconscious for her. And we take these things on. And so to go back in there and go way back and heal that is just so magnificent, because it can just open, open, open. I was so exhausted at the end of the family constellation yesterday, because there was such a release and so much that's opening and so much that's happening. And so sometimes we're still doing another level of our own work. And I feel that for myself too, all the time, that there's just another level, there's another level, and there's another level. But we don't have to get caught up in the levels either. Just be who you are, just shine the light and show the way. And a lot of times that anxiety will just dissipate. And another thing that's coming through is when we start to feel that anxiety, we've got to get back into our body. Many of you know that, like, that somatic work is so important, but we still try to do it on our own. And not that long ago, I went and looked online, and it doesn't matter. I was looking for something else, but I came across hugging professionals, cuddling professionals, I think is what they're called. And I brought it to a fireside chat that I do here at my home. And lo and behold, one of my participants said, "I'm a certified cuddler." And I was like, oh my goodness, this is so incredible. And so there's actually people out there that are for hire, to hold you, to help you feel in your body. And we spend so much time, I feel, trying to not feel or feel on our own, and maybe not go out or not be with people or not hug someone that extra bit, because we're so deeply processing something that feels painful that we don't want them to experience it with us. We don't want to project it onto them. And we really just want to move through it. And I think the suggestion here is hug more people appropriately, touch more people appropriately, be in community and communion with more people. Even if they don't feel 100% vibrationally resonant, do it for fun, do it for curiosity, and mingle. Just go out and mingle. And yeah, when 90% or maybe 99% of the people there, or maybe even 100% of the people don't feel like they're your people, know that your presence there made an impact and a difference. And it's okay. Let's go to the next. Let's go to the next party. Let's go to the next event. Let's go to the next gathering. And really just stepping into wanting to discover those people, those places, those things that can help us feel into our body, help us feel love, and help us feel the oxytocin that gets released with eye contact and touching, and just, how lovely it is. So this is such a basic thing. When maybe it's not, put in the comments if this is for you. But when I go to like a coffee shop or someplace that I know and I frequent, and they know my name, or they ask me something that feels really personalized, not just like, how are you? That just like shoots oxytocin through me. And I'm just like, oh, I feel like I'm part of a community. Hey, maybe it's my small town, growing up in a town of 2,500 people and feeling like people knew me. And, maybe there's an element of that. But I think in general, we want to feel like we have connection to community. And oftentimes, as awakened beings, we're living in communities that aren't that awakened. Luckily, where I'm at in Southern California, we've got a lot of awakened people. So I get the luxury of bumping into a lot of people that vibe off of my vibe. They're not taking from it or dampening it. But honestly, there's more places than not that are that lower vibrational vibe, where people want to talk about the gossip. They want to talk about the lower vibrational things and not shine the light and show the way. All right. Okay, I've got a comment. I have a friend whose husband hates being hugged. He always keeps everybody at a distance in hugging. How should I handle that? Just respectfully, not hug him? Yeah, I love that question. First of all, I do always say to people, and I know this isn't relevant in this particular situation, but are you a hugger? And they can tell me yes or no. Now, you already know that he's not a hugger. I would suggest that talk to the wife first and run this past her, because this is something much bigger than you as a friend. And I would ask about touching his hand or touching his shoulder, or is there something that I might be able to do that just creates a bit of a connection? Now, if that's still way too much, which it might be, because it sounds like they're wound really tight, It might be that you make eye contact with them for just a few seconds longer, that you actually see them, that you just connect through the eyes. That can move mountains, especially for men, because for men, a woman who gives their eye contact, it's a permission slip for them to approach you, have a conversation with you. And yes, that's a little bit more in like maybe the singles dating scene, but I do believe that it's also very much in a non-dating situation. Last night I went to a birthday party. It was beautiful. I knew very few people and I went for all the reasons that I've already just said. And I made a real point to hold eye contact with people. And it made some people feel uncomfortable. And some people, I know it warmed them up to me to where they felt like they could ask me anything or they could say anything. And so I just noticed for myself and for others, not from judgment, just from like a feeling into the energy, how was the feeling for me? How was the feeling for them? And of course, I didn't violate their boundaries. If they felt really uncomfortable, I didn't keep staring at them. But I didn't have anyone that ultimately looked away for an extended period of time. They might have glanced away, that kind of thing. So I would try the eye contact. I would try if there's something that you think you could do that's a touch, but not a hug. That sometimes just it's too much. They're too wound, and they're too traumatized. Actually, is typically what it is, or closed. And the reason why we close our heart is typically through trauma. I like the eye contact acknowledgement. That feels nice. I'll ask his wife what she thinks. Yeah, I think it'll be, please come back on the show and let us know what happens with that. And maybe you'll find some other really great ways to connect. Sometimes it's just connection through topics, because this is a friend's husband. It might be someone that you see regularly, and you might just see how you can build the relationship with words. And if the eye contact feels, I think the eye contact's going to work. Actually, intuitively, I feel like it's going to work. But it's also potentially the words that you speak as you're making the eye contact that just make them feel very seen and heard and comfortable with you. And I think that's the goal for us out in public all the time, isn't it? To be comfortable ourselves and to help other people feel comfortable. And when we don't, then we go, okay, there's something there for me. There's a little bit something that I can feel into. There's something I can learn from, of why am I not feeling comfortable? Not from judgment, not from, all of those head spaces, but just from what's in me that needs to be released? What belief am I holding on to? All right, great. I love the interaction. Let's keep going on. We've got a couple more questions here, and I know we're coming down to the end of the hour. Okay. How do I let go of needing validation from people who don't understand my path? Yeah, this is a good one too, isn't it? Because no one understands your path, honestly. Like, no one does, because your path is your path. And there's a million ways back to wholeness. There's a million ways, a gazillion ways, a bazillion ways, like an uncountable number of ways to go back to wholeness and remembrance. So ultimately, no one's going to get your path, but I hear your question. And there are people that resonate with us. So there are relationships, friendships, romantic, family, that have a vibrational resonance that helps us to feel into our wholeness and feel a safety with that wholeness. Now, the validation part, I'm just looking back at the question. Letting go of validation means that you are looking for something from the external world to tell you who you are. And that's great, because that gives us the lessons that we still need to learn. That gives us the things that we still need to transmute. So that's not bad. It's just that at some point we want to get to a place where whatever happens in the external world just does not have an impact on us that is devastating. It might have an impact right here, right now. Oof, I feel that way. Oof, that happened. Oh, I feel joy. Oof, I feel pain. I feel scared. So it's not about avoiding the feeling. It's about feeling the feeling and letting it go. So you're letting go of the ideas of that someone needs to say something good. Someone needs to see who you are. Someone needs to experience the brightness that you have. Because we always have to remember that the brighter our light, the more that we can potentially attract darkness, which is not bad. Everyone, oh, darkness, that's a bad thing. No, it's our shadow. It's our shadow. It's our subconscious. It's the parts of us that need to come up. And some people go for lifetimes without uncovering their deepest shadows. And sometimes people go for lifetimes building more shadows. So we really are wanting to shine the light for people and recognize that oftentimes when we do, they're attracted to our light, but it's also shining light on their darkness. And that creates a discord, that creates an imbalance, that creates a, like, I don't want to validate you because you're hurting me with your light. And that's kind of the bizarre part of this at times, depending upon the connection you have to the person. It can feel really bizarre that you're loving with light so much that it's actually creating something for them that is the opposite. And you're like, how is it possible that I give love and they can't A, receive it, and B, they come back at me with something far from love? And so it's that wounded inner child part of them that's actually speaking to you and shining the light. It doesn't mean that you stand there with it, but you can still walk away from it in a very graceful way and still be loving. All right, there's a couple of other comments here. Are all emotions a gift/burden, depending upon whether we experience them through the lens of love or fear? Yeah, I think that's a great comment and a great question. Absolutely. I'm a big Course in Miracles person. It's all about fear or love. And I really, if you break everything down, you can see that our actions are based out of fear and love. So the emotions that we have, let's be grateful, and I feel like you are, Heart Traveler, grateful for our ability to be able to feel our emotions, because we've spent so much of our life numbing our emotions, because that's what our society in general, generally speaking, does, is it tells us to just quiet down. Don't be too happy. Don't be too, don't be sad. Don't cry. And so, yeah, those emotions are a gift. And anyone that's looking upon us, maybe it's our guardian angels, maybe it's, other sentient beings, they would love to have the human experience of being in our physical body and having these emotions. And so, yeah, let's rejoice in the ability to feel our emotions, but let's also anchor in what we're talking about. That's feeling our emotions in our body. And that's where we feel them the most. But sometimes we get tripped up and we get tricked into our mind, and our mind is creating an emotion. So let's just be clear on not allowing the mind to run, put the mind in the back seat, and allow the soul to drive, which is being anchored in and embodying those feelings, so that we can feel the feels and transmute the feels in a timely manner, but in divine timing too. It doesn't have to be fast. Is that helpful? I'd love to hear, if you're still with us, what your feeling is on that. Okay, there's another question here. Also, when we're doing spiritual work and anxiety shows up, it's because the ego just showed up to keep you away from who you really are. So a distraction, so to distract you with anxiety. Yeah, I think that's so spot on. Yeah, the spiritual work can create anxiety, and I think just not looking again at that as something that's bad. It's something that we do want to transmute and move through, because being in anxiety doesn't feel nice. So yeah, thank you for that comment, that it is a distraction. And I think some of the anchoring tools that we talked about earlier can really help you to move out of the mind that is creating the anxiety and into the body. It feels like it's in our body because the anxiety is releasing there, but it's coming also from the mind and at a cellular memory. Okay. Glad you brought up the Coldplay thing. Sure, bad choice, but I feel bad for them. Not everyone is ripping hard on them. Yeah. Thank you. I just think it's such a great lesson for all of us, and to have that empathy, and to understand what it would feel like, and what we can be doing in our own lives to have that open trust and speaking our truth, because that's really, I think, what that whole example brought forward for all of us, no matter what situation you're in. All right. Yes. Thank you, Heart Traveler. I appreciate the question. Okay. So I've got time for just a couple more here. Let's jump right into how do I, oh, sorry, I did that one. Why does the spiritual path feel so lonely sometimes, even when I know I'm growing? The loneliness is a call to go back to unity. And that happened at the first separation. For me, I'll share a personal story because it's coming through. In a hypnotherapy session many, many years ago, I saw myself as a very small girl, and I was out in the field. My dad was a hunter, and I love my dad, and he had shot a deer. And I remember walking up to that deer. This came through back to me through hypnosis. And I looked into the eyes of that deer, and the spirit was gone. And it was that moment that I realized that my innocence was gone. I was like, this is not a fun place. This is not the place that I thought I was coming to. This is not the place that I know to be my reality in oneness, in utopia, in unity. And from that point forward, that separation, that point of separation where I knew that I was in a body and I was in a world that also had violent things. Now, I don't mean to say, because I also had a lot of additional hypnotherapy sessions around hunting and the deer, and really incredible things came through. And the deer was actually fine sacrificing. I know some of you may disagree with me, and that's okay. But the deer was fine sacrificing his life to give me food. And that there was a lot that came around that was actually really beautiful. I thought, oh my gosh, am I going to be a vegan, a vegetarian the rest of my life? And there's nothing wrong with that either. But for me, it was so clear that there was a sacrifice, and that, for my father, that hunting, he's a hunter and gatherer, that was something that really filled his soul to bring that food home to me. And for me, I realized, wow, I got to grow up on grass-fed venison all my life. And it gave me such a foundation for my physical body and my cellular memory to not have all the hormones, to not have all the anxiety that comes from cattle that are in contained systems. So I felt so grateful for a lot of that. So I'm not saying that to knock hunting. I think there's really respectable, conscious ways of hunting and fishing and bringing food onto our tables. So yes, I know some people will disagree, but that's okay. We can have different beliefs on that. But I really, I really felt that separation with, that Bambi that day for me. And so it's getting back to that point. And so the loneliness is what I'm getting to, is that it's that deeper soul's longing and calling to be really in connection to source. We're always in connection, but to feel it and to embody it and to be it and to live it and to breathe it and to experience it in a way that it's unshakable. And so that's really where we're headed on the path, is to be that unshakable, spiritual, sacred soul that we are at our core, but we're not feeling because of all the mind mess, because of all the traumatic memories in our somatic system. And it's a path. There's no destination. It's a path. And on that path, oftentimes we are clearing decades, lineages, all the way back to source, some of these wounds and some of these traumas. And when we do for ourselves, we are also changing the energetic field for others. So it's not in vain. We're doing our own work, and we're also having an incredible impact for all of humanity as we do it. Okay, I think with that, I'm gonna close out. I've got a few more questions, but I'm gonna hold them till next week. I think that, yeah, we've gone through so much great stuff here today. I would love to hear your comments. If you like anything I'm talking about, please subscribe to the channel, give it a thumbs up. And if you want to do more work with me, you want to get into something more personal, you want to have a dialogue, you can always go to bethbell.me and schedule a session anywhere from 30 minutes to the VIP monthly intuitive advising program. So please go to bethbell.me. You can check out all of the information there. There's also the Awakening and Healing Handbook. So there's lots of juicy nuggets in there. And as I started out with the show, if you're interested in my book, Angels, Herpes, and Psychedelics, you'll hear all about my awakening journey and how I got to where I am. And I would love to hear your comments on that as well. All right. So until next week, I'm wishing you so much love and bliss on this journey. Namaste.